Today's episode is brought to you by Crazy Rachel's cat sitting service. If she can't sit on it, it's not a cat.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah, Auntie?
What are you up to?
Just trying to finish some work.
You're always working. You never have time for me anymore.
I'm sorry, sweetie. I'll hang out with you this afternoon. What do you even want to do?
Tune my rig, baby.
I'm not qualified to do that.
Please?
Well, fine, but I don't even have a tension gauge.
Use this one.
Where'd you get this from?
Never mind that. Just tune me up, baby.
Anticipation. Alright, so today I'm going to be tuning my own rig. Disclaimer, I am not qualified to do this, and you probably aren't either. So, always hire a professional to do this. I have no excuse. I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, let us talk tools. In order to tune the rig, you need a tension gauge that has the appropriate size for your stays. Mine are 5/16 right there and 1/4 inch. So this is a good one for me. We need this to check the tension on every stay, and without it you really are just guessing. We also need some pliers. I got channel locks and needle nose. Then also a wrench. I also like to do this with my Bible and my 3-gallon bucket of holy water because it's a nightmare. Yeah. So, on any sloop design like mine, I've got my boat with me, rudder, keel, mast, boom, backstay, forestay, and then I've got 6 shrouds total. I've got cap shrouds that go all the way up to the top of the mast, and then 2 lower shrouds on both sides that go about halfway up the mast. Now my mast is actually keel mounted, so it goes all the way through the middle of the boat, and that is currently what the camera is mounted on. And that is where it sits. If you remember, I had that worked on earlier last year, but now I need to work on the top part. I think what happened is when they worked on the bottom and put the mast back in, these got off just ever so slightly, because right now the problem that I'm having is that my forestay jiggles a lot when I'm headed up into the wind, and I believe that is due to improper tensioning on all of these. I already went through and checked all of them, and they are way off from what I believe that they should be. So I'm going to have to go through each of them and slacken them off and then retighten them to the correct tension. Keep in mind that this is an old boat. There is no manufacturer specification for these shrouds. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking the lower shrouds to about 200 pounds and then the cap shrouds to about 700 or 800 pounds. And then on the back and forestay, I'll try to get it as tight as I feel comfortable with. Now, some people, and I'm copying this from the internet, so I apologize for plagiarizing, but some people like to keep everything slack and loose so that the mast will flop around and it won't be too tight, but you'll break something like that. And the reason you do that is because the looser it is, the more this moves. And the more it moves, the more wild the forces are. If the mast is fully forward, then all the tension is on the backstay and not on the forestay, but if you hit a wave, then all that gets immediately thrown back and your forestay tensions up all the way and your backstay, slackens off. So it can damage things just from that transfer of force. If everything is nice and tight, then the transfer of forces is a little bit different because you're not moving your mast as much. So that is the goal. Keep in mind, I cannot stress this enough, I am not a professional. Everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt about the size of the ocean. So yeah, that is what we will do today. Okay. So, the first step is going to be get rid of the cotter pins here. That is why you need the needle nose pliers. Once the cotter pins are out, then I will loosen the turnbuckles so that way they are slack, or at least more slack than they are now. I've already checked that the mast is centered, which is really the first step whenever you're playing with this. And the way that you do that is you use the halyards to measure how far the mast is from different points on the boat. And, yeah, okay. So I slackened off on all the other shrouds and gotta hurry up because there's a giant storm coming. But right now my backstay here, we're showing at about 25 on the meter, which when I look at the 5/16 is somewhere between 1,300 1,500 pounds. We're going to try to take it up to 1,700, 2,000, somewhere in that range. And hopefully that'll be a good setting for the backstay and four-stage engine. I'll need to then go back and retension everything else, and we'll be good to go. So, the last step of any good tune is recording. So right now the backstay is at number 28 on the gauge. I'm going to make a note here that it is a 5/16 inch backstay, and I'm also going to notate today's date. And basically every time I use this to measure in the future, I can compare and I can find out, how loose it's getting or how tight it's getting, and I'm going to assume that number 28 is the future base setting that I'm going to be using. But I won't actually be able to verify how great it is until I get the boat out on the water, because that is the final step, and I can't do it today.